Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Transformation Hour. I am your host, Jay Jackson, the Transformation Architect. And you know, this is the Transformation Hour, the show designed to help us connect so that individuals, businesses, and communities can develop, transform, and fly to new heights in your life or your business. You know, our main topics are leadership, personal development, entrepreneurship, or anything to help you get your mind, body, and soul right. But today's specific topic is how to grow a business and strengthen a brand by leveraging visual storytelling. All right. And so I'm here with an expert, Mr. Maury Rogow, and I hope, Maury, I didn't butcher that last name.
It was close.
He'll correct me later. All right. But here's the deal, guys. So Maury, he is the CEO at RIP Media. He's an executive producer and an author, has a rare combination of success in both business and Hollywood. He built his prominent career in business development at Avaya, Lucent Technologies, GeoTel, a startup company that was sold to Cisco Systems for over $1 billion. So look, guys, you already know that when we start talking to experts who have the B associated with their name, they're going to drop major nuggets on us tonight. But he has launched dozens of new products and businesses successfully. His Hollywood credits include producing 2 theatrical films, working with the creator of the Batman franchise, and acting in various roles, including Entourage, Oceans 13. His blend of business marketing and Hollywood story give him a unique voice of story-based marketing. And here's a major tagline. You ready for this one? Simply said, your brand will live or die based on the story you tell. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the CEO of RIP Media Group, Maury Rogow. How are you today, sir?
I'm great. Thank you, Jay. It was like flashbacks when you went through my bio there. I was thinking, oh yeah, that is true. Boy, that sounds like a really cool career. I'm glad it was mine.
Yeah, was that me? He's talking about me?
I know.
Well, look, I'll tell you, I appreciate you. I understand, trust me, that your time is very, very valuable. So we are grateful to have you on the Transformation Hour. You are a few hours behind us out there at Pacific Standard Time. So it's still kind of sunlight for you, but we are dark here on the East Coast. So we're going to get right into it. And I want you real quick, Maury, if you will, just kind of give the viewers a little bit of your background, a little bit of your story from childhood, and kind of walk us through how you got to where you are today so that the audience can really understand who you are and what makes you an expert on the topics we're going to discuss tonight.
Sure. Thank you for asking that. I didn't know we were going to go that far back. So that's a pretty cool question. So, recently I've realized my life has been basically 7 to 10 year segments. So I can go back and I can knock it out in a few of those segments, right? So I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Hopefully we gained audience there instead of lose audience.
I got to interject real quick, Maury. Hold on. So my grandmother, I have to say this. So my grandmother is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yes.
Oh my. So you're going to be cool with me tonight. Go ahead.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So from Pittsburgh, grew up there. Whatever. The beginnings were the beginnings. I mean, we certainly, had a family that we kind of split apart, that kind of thing. And a lot of people actually, as I was growing up, were leaving town. They were leaving Pittsburgh because when I grew up, it was really tough times in Pittsburgh. The steel mills were closing down. It was that long ago, right? So the steel mills were closing down. We spiked. Unemployment went to like 30-some%, and people that were doing really, really well all of a sudden had no jobs. So it was a really tough time. So I actually started, I guess this first segment was, I just started, finding what I really loved, what I could do. And I wasn't sure that Pittsburgh was really the city for me, although I didn't know anything else. But, it's kind of overcast and kind of gray there a lot of the year and that kind of thing. It's a partly cloudy day every day in Pittsburgh, kind of like a Seattle. But I found myself I wrestled, and then I was in karate, and I threw myself into karate. And this has been, I always go back to this. And the reason I'm bringing up the karate thing is the belts system, the tournaments I went through, the things that I won there. And I just loved it so much. And I didn't realize it was teaching me long-term goals broken down into smaller steps. Because if you're going for a black belt, that's years away. But there's steps along the way: white belt, some stripes, yellow belt, et cetera. You work your way through. And it was really teaching me goal set, achieve and get there. So I really loved that. I actually stayed with it. I started teaching karate. Was actually, sorry, not one, but second in the United States for kumite, which is
Nice.
fighting. Yeah. So did that. And then, I did go off to college, and then I moved to, like I said, there was not much happening in Pittsburgh. So I moved to Washington, D.C. And my dad tells this story about me where he had moved there. And I got there and I'm like, okay, I got to find a job. How do you do that? I open a newspaper. To me, it seemed natural. Open a newspaper, wanted section. There's a job fair. It's downtown. I called him and I said, can you tell me where L'Enfant Plaza is? Because I don't know where, but they have jobs there. I don't know. So they have a job fair. So I go down there and I actually landed one with a company called AT&T. So huge company, at the time. And it took months, interviews and this sort of thing to go through, but ended up in marketing and sales. And I loved it. I truly loved it. Same kind of thing. It was that measurement by goals. So it was, kind of expand a territory, grow the territory, put marketing programs together for them, go out there and directly sell. And it was all corporate. It wasn't AT&T. I think everybody thinks of it as the cell phone company. They bought McCaw Cellular way back when to be in the cellular market, but this was all business to business sales. So did that, really, really was fortunate enough to really achieve. And I won all the, a lot of the quarterly and yearly, sales awards and that kind of stuff, kept growing territory. And I hit a ceiling. They wouldn't let a young guy make more than a certain amount. And I thought, well, there's got to be other ways to go out there. And plus, I've been selling this big company name, not really my name, not really something that I know I could do on my own. Do I really have any value out there? Or is it really just people will buy from AT&T and IBM and, these big names? So I went to this little teeny startup, and it was a long path to get there. I really had to fight my way in the door, but I was one of the youngest people hired by this company called GeoTel Communications that I thought was just absolutely disrupting the marketplace. So they had a technology that was so far ahead, people couldn't even understand what it did. And I thought, well, that's the place I got to be. That's really cool. And it took me about a year to fight my way in the door there. And I met some of the most intelligent, some of the best people I've worked with at that company. And when I went there, similar thing. I, kind of won, not 100, but the, salesperson of the year and things like that, and started working for, the big banks. I brought in projects from, was it Chase and, MBNA Bank and Bank of America and these kind of things. And we work with airlines and large banks and huge companies. And I was still, 28 years old at the time. And it was incredible. And we built that company up enough that a company called Cisco Systems had some negotiations going on with our competitor. And we caught wind of it because they were going to buy that competitor, it turns out. And we said, look, they're violating our patents already. So big hint, intellectual property, protect it. This is the thing that I think was one of the keys. Not only were we good, but that company was already, violating and infringing on some IP that we had, intellectual property. Got a hold of Cisco, some of the senior people there, put the deal together, and within a year, Cisco purchased us for $2 billion. It was incredible. It was an incredible ride. And I know you've had a couple incredible rides in your life too. So let me tell you the other side of this.
All right.
So at that time, I was lucky enough to become, pretty wealthy, I wouldn't say quickly, but it happened.
Right.
But 1 year later, everything was gone. I can say it now without, the stomach ulcer and the and all the problems that I had, but, that I went through. I couldn't believe it. But that time was the stock market crash, was the real estate market crash, was, so many terrible things happened in America. Everything crashed. Cisco stock went from 81 to 4. So not only did I lose all that, I actually owed more money than I actually had. So I went from one of the luckiest people on earth to one of the least lucky people on earth. And I thought, hey, what I'm starting all over again here now. I'm whatever, 14 years into my career, and I still have plenty of energy left. What do I do? Well, what have I always wanted to do? I've wanted to move to Hollywood. I've always wanted, if I would start again, I would just start in Hollywood like I wanted to. So it took me a little time. I tried a couple more startups and tried a couple of my own companies, started a couple of my own companies. They went, moderately well, but nothing huge. But when I moved out here, I just dove in. I moved right into Hollywood, basically, dove in, and I did everything. I didn't know anything about it. All I saw was I loved going to movies, and I knew this actor or this director, and I did everything. I did stand-up comedy. I acted. I carried stuff on sets. I kind of worked my way up, and through that sales and marketing career, I learned something I think a lot of the artists here didn't really ever learn, which is the tenacity to go and market and sell myself. So I kind of told this story about myself to casting agents and managers and agencies and agents and things like that. So I got picked up by an agent. I got picked up by a manager. I got, into the Screen Actors Guild. I was in Ocean's 13 and Entourage and, a few other things. And it was really fun. But I also realized when you're the actor, two things. One is your art, your tool is your emotions. It's tough. And I wasn't that good. I wasn't that good at being an actor.
Right.
They could cry on cue. They could laugh and make a gent. People that have been doing this forever, their toolkit is their heart. And I wasn't that tapped into it to be able to do that. So I did okay. But I started seeing the other side of the camera, the guy that's directing us, the producers, the people that kind of raise the funds and put the vision together. I'd like to try that. So I did that, and we ended up producing, I joined with a group of people, and we produced 2 films. And, they went out. One was on Showtime and, released in theaters. The other one just came out on HBO and so forth. So I thought, this is great. But here's another lesson. That takes a long time when you're making movies, 3-4 years each. Fundraising, the shoot is 6 weeks. You film a movie in 6 weeks, but getting the script as good as it can be, getting funding lined up, getting actors, getting as big an actor and most popular actor that's good and can fit through. All these things take months and months and years to line it all up. So by the time the movie's shot, now it's another 6 months or a year before you edit it all together and you have 90 minutes. Like, oh. And so I thought at one of the meetings, I said to the camera guy, I said, what are you doing after this movie? Do you have another one? He's like, no, man, I'm doing corporate stuff. I'm making commercials and things like that. And I thought, that's a good thing for me. Those are 60 seconds.
Right.
My attention span is about 60 seconds. My attention span isn't even as long as this story I just told you.
Right.
And it's about me. So I said, let me just kind of hang a shingle out there. And what I did is, I put this kind of, threw up a website and, came up with a name really, really, I'm talking about in one meeting, I sat down with, Sony, and they said, what's the name of your company? And I thought, intellectual property, Rogow, RIP. I said, well, it's RIP Media. It's Rogow's intellectual property. I literally did it right there. And they said, you know what, it's getting near the end of the day. We're going to pull up your website tomorrow and let's set up another meeting for next week. I left that meeting so excited. I went home and I built the website overnight, had to get the name. I did all that stuff. And that's the origin of this name. RIP Media Group was that one meeting, which is so funny. I still think it's hilarious. I didn't put, naming and branding schemes together to come up with this company name. Anyway, so that started that. And, I put a good story out to the world. I kind of risked it, and I did it again. I took the last of my dollars that I'd allocated for this. I put it out there, and I created a video in the website, a much better version. And I started going around town and speaking and giving as much information away as I could. And we started getting business, and we started growing and growing and growing. And now, here we are from that point. We're at, almost 8 years later, or maybe even a little bit more than that. And, we have Ben & Jerry's ice cream we work with, and Cisco, the company that purchased that company I was with, as a customer. And, Comcast, Universal, as well as so many startups and, even 1- and 2-person shops that call us, that need help with their story. And we're really a video marketing agency. So I want to really tell the story with a video, sometimes live, typically now in animation. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And that's what we do. So I grew this company out of that crazy path I just told you about, of every decade doing something different. And I'm looking at the end of the decade here in a couple of years thinking, what's next, huh? I don't know. 2020 is coming.
Hey, we're always wondering what's the next big thing. So it's okay for you to be looking forward, man. That's what visionaries do. So
So,
you
thanks.
one of the major, I guess, components of who you are and what it is that you do, just like you just did, was told a story. And why, you hear, so now we're in this age of how everyone is utilizing social media, calling themselves an entrepreneur and things of that nature. Why is it so important for individuals to understand the power of their story in order for them to just really build their brand?
I think the reason is everything has changed, with the advent of a faster internet, right? I think that was really the impetus. So if you go back to what the internet was, we had pages, web pages, that kind of thing. Fast forward another 10 years, say from 95 to 2005, internet started speeding up. YouTube wasn't really, I don't even know if it was here yet.
Right,
But
right.
once the web sped up fast enough, that YouTube became a thing, that Facebook became a thing, and surpassed, MySpace and Friendster, the things that were around there. What happened is you had this proliferation of what seemed like, and again, we're in a weird time right now with what's authentic and what isn't, fake news and all
Right.
these different things. Taking all that off the table, I just want to remove all that stuff. But we kind of hit this era of authenticity, and people really want to connect. And if we were sitting down and having a cup of coffee with each other, a beer or whatever, we would tell each other about, like, where are you from, man? And, tell me about yourself. You'd hear my story, I'd hear yours. And it's not happening as much like that. We're doing this over Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, etc.
Right.
But people really want an authentic story. So the other side of it is we're very visual creatures. So I think just, as humans, so we're very visual. We think in visual, and we also think and remember in terms of story. So I always say data strays and stories stay. So a lot of this stuff, if we keep talking, I'll give 300% of this or 500% growth. Nobody's going to remember that.
Right.
But they might remember, whatever the story, one of the things that I lost all my money, that'll probably be that, and more, right? So that probably would be the thing. But, you never know what's going to really stick or not. But if you tell a story that's authentic and true, and you share something that's visual, you can paint a picture.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to do that, it will be, embedded in people's minds. There are statistics out there that show that it's a 300% increase in memory if we're told a story that has facts inside of it rather than just the facts. So I think that's really kind of what changed things, and what the proliferation of, us, really having this growth is. We were right there at the beginning of, let's tell stories visually, and let's not just do a video. Let's actually, make a difference. Not just make a video, but tell stories.
Well, it's amazing because we have seen this throughout history. I mean, whether it great philosophers, great theologians, even in today's time, they utilize stories to paint that picture to help their audience really understand the message that they're looking to send. And I think that is what makes great commercials. That's what makes great movies and things of that nature. So, what would you say is, I guess, is the foundation? So, like, I'll say this. So, I'm a huge, and God rest his soul, I'm a huge Jim Rohn fan. And Jim Rohn talks about the importance of the details of a story, whether or not it was snowing, how the wind was blowing, the emotions that you felt, and things of that nature. What are some of the key components of storytelling that people might want to really pay attention to whenever they're trying to tell their story and build their brand?
I feel like I've been a student of this for a long time. So I think I've got a really good couple of sections in the answer here.
Okay, go for it.
Because when I came out here, I really wanted to learn everything I could about what is a good story. Why am I engaged in this movie or this TV show or this commercial where I'm not in that? And it comes down to a couple big things. this is one of the biggest keys I can give right here, which is when we're creating a story, creating a video, creating a script or a concept, we ask each other, what's the stuff? What's the stuff in that? And what's the stuff is an acronym. So STUFF. So S for sexy. Is there something that's sexy or different that stands out? You know, it doesn't have to be, a fashion brand or lingerie or jewelry. What's sexy about having a broker that brings you a high return is that you can escape and get away in that convertible that we see in all the commercials going along the coast. It's the result. That's sexy. That's different. It's not how I use the computer. It's that the computer brings me and the software brings me to a new way of life. Apple did a beautiful job with making things sexy that were completely nerd-based 15 years ago. And I've got a great question I'll ask you. So what was the first or
Uh-oh, I think we broke up for a second, Mark. Can you say
oh
the first what now?
what was the first MP3 player? The first, digital.
I have no idea what the first player was, but I
Of
know
course.
Apple comes back and says, okay, hey, we're going to give you the iPod.
The Apple came back and said, because there were other people out there saying, we have 32 megabits of storage. We have data. We have speeds and feeds and data. Steve Jobs got on stage and said, put 1,000 songs in your pocket
Yep.
and go live your life. And people just, he said it. He told a story in one sentence, put 1,000 songs in your pocket. And so that was the difference. We can't remember who it was. It was F10 Networks out of South Korea. They were out of business. Sony didn't win that race. Microsoft didn't win the race. They had all these things. Jobs won based on the best story. And he made listening to music, mobile, really sexy. Remember those dancers? All those things. So he made that sexy. So the next one, T, is touching. Do you have anything, or is the result of what you're doing, you as a coach and a speaker and a podcaster, somebody else that might be, an attorney, it might be family law. I mean, I have no idea, but don't focus on the thing you do, focus on the result. And if the result isn't touching in any way, that you can be, closer with your family, that you are helping, your grandparents. For example, if I start to tell you a story about the last time I was with my mom, you will relate it to yourself. You'll be listening to me, but you're gonna be thinking about the last time you saw your mom, and that kind of thing. So we all relate it. So if you can make it touching and touch the heart, people will remember. The U is for unexpected or unique. So do something that's very different, that stands out. It doesn't have to be crazy, zany, so risky. Just do something that's different from what everybody else is doing. You see a video or explain your video on somebody else's website and say, I need that. I'm going to copy them. Don't. Do the opposite. Do something original. You got to be unique to be memorable. Funny, so the two apps, remember, in this stuff. So funny. Excuse me. A couple great examples are, did you see the Dollar Shave Club? Explain,
the ads,
right? A few years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So he did something completely unique. He was taking on a $1 billion industry, taking on Gillette razors, right? With really inexpensive razors that you buy on a monthly basis. That company was sold for $1 billion to Unilever. Just incredible. And it all started with him taking a risk and going for funny on a video. Poopery was another one that did, vacuum spray, and they made it funny, and that took off. So there's great examples out there. And then F, the other F is for fear, which is lack of security. People would rather avoid pain than go to pleasure. I bet there's more people that have insurance of different types than have been to Cancun, right? So people will do whatever they can to avoid pain. So make them feel more secure is another example. So those are the big 5 emotions. People buy emotionally. And then the other part of it, does that make sense, by the way? Are you following my?
No, that makes tons of sense. I just want to do a quick recap before we go further. Remember, guys, it is stuff, sexy, touching, unexpected, or unique, funny, and fear when you're doing your storytelling.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. The other thing is, again, there's many, but one other main thing is the basic story structure. So if people are doing, creating their own, or if you're going out and hiring professionally, like a company like ours, to create something that's, higher quality, there's a basic story structure that can be used completely to your benefit or can turn against you. And I'll give you an example of each. All right. So the basic is, establish the present, establish the characters, establish, who's in play. And there's going to be a hero and an anti-hero. All right. Hero and protagonist. So that's basically in the first few seconds, or if you think about a movie. Actually, do you have a favorite movie or two? Can you throw me into? I'll use an example.
Favorite movie. My favorite movie. Good one. One of them is Friday with Ice Cube and Chris.
Yeah, I saw that. Friday.
So I guess the heroes would be Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, and then Debo would be the protagonist.
The protagonist, exactly. Right? So if we follow it through, it's going to be hero established, right? People that we're on the side of, we can empathize with them, we feel what they're going through, because we're always relating what's going on screen to ourselves. Works for a movie, works for TV shows, works for 30-second commercials. How am I related to this? Does this matter to me at all? Can I feel this? So we establish them, we like them or we don't. We like them or we hate them. Either way, they're interesting. We like the Joker. You know what I mean? Joker's more interesting than Batman in some ways.
Right.
Like the bad guy's usually more interesting. But okay, I'm in. All right, so you got me for the first little segment there. Now, life-changing event is going to hit. Something big is going to happen and change everything for these guys. Are they going to be able to go through, follow the journey, and find their ultimate goal of happiness or right? Does that follow with Friday?
Absolutely.
So, right? They're going to get to a point near the end of the second act where, man, we cannot do this. Where there's no chance we can go. We're not good enough. We're not strong enough. But then they turn and they look to themselves, or one will inspire the other one and say, we can't do this. Let's dig deep. We can make this happen, right?
Yeah.
So it comes through. They come through. They persevere, most likely in most movies. They persevere and they have that golden ring, right? They get the emotion, they get the love, they get the the happiness or whatever their goal was at the beginning that they were striving for the whole time, and then redemption, and then peace on earth. So there it is. There's the story structure, right? Boom. And some spikes in between. I can't get there. Yes, we can. They're going to go through pitfalls like any journey will take you. So that works for Friday. It works for Star Wars. It works for the new Star Wars. It works for Mad Max. It works for Don Corleone and The Godfather. Name a movie that's good and it works. And if you even take something like Quentin Tarantino's movies where he switches the order up, it still works. They're all going through story arcs. So that's what if you can. Now that's the advanced version. Here's the real simple version, but I'm going to caution people on this because I think we're seeing a lot of the bad version of this in basic explainer videos and a lot of LinkedIn and Facebook posts now.
Okay.
It goes like this. It goes pain, dream, solution, call to action. And it can go badly. So still okay. We're still there. You can, you should be able to mix things up, but you got to add that stuff on top. It's going to be funny or it's going to be whatever. But here's what happens when it's the bad version. This is Bob. Bob works in accounting. Bob's having so much trouble with his accounting software. Bob needs to find, ta-da, software. Now Bob can do all these things and Bob's happy. Thanks, Bob. And that's it. And that's what a lot of companies, they're just churning out explainer videos. And what happens? I have no emotional contact, connection with this unless my name happens to be Bob and I work in accounting.
Right.
And I look like a simple cartoon, right? So not good. We don't have any emotional tie in there. It's a really basic format. And I think at the beginning, a few years ago, it worked. But now there's so many of them that we're just, our eyes glaze over. We got it. So you've got to be smarter than that. So that's why this stuff is there. That's why you can mix up the order. And that's why you can be, you got to be more creative on, with how you're telling your story.
Well, you know, it's amazing that you bring that up because a lot of the influencers that I even follow, whether it, you know, it's the Gary Vaynerchuk's of the world, he'll even talk about how just document, you know, take people on a journey from, you know, where you currently are and walk them through, as you say, the peaks and the valleys of your story. And that really builds the rapport and builds the bond with your audience. And so you're right. So many LinkedIn videos, especially now with LinkedIn allowing native video and things of that right now. You see, as you said, you know, people basically say, hey, you know, here's the pain, here's your solution, and now a call to action because everyone is focused on the sale and not the relationship building aspect and the importance of the story.
That's so well said. Thank you. That's a perfect summary, better than I can do. Um, there were two things that I also can we expand on this a touch more?
Absolutely. Go for it, sir. You got it.
Okay. Two things that I think people forget when we're talking about this, you know, how to create a story and where to put the story. So first is, it is not only not bad, it's good to be an underdog. You know, be the underdog. It's okay. Most, you know, brands have been coming out, you know, we're the biggest, we're the mightiest, we're the strongest. You know, I mean, we have the fastest speeds and we'll make you better, faster, stronger, you know, sexier, you know, that kind of thing. And nobody else can. Well, people don't really like that anymore. We don't like the big bully anymore,
Mm,
right? And then, in fact, I think we really never did. We've always rooted for the underdog. You know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
your guys in Friday, they're, you know, if they're underdogs, we
Yeah.
like because we're underdogs. You know, I'm an underdog in so many ways. And if we see people out there, they probably think of themselves as the underdog. So
Absolutely.
people relate to the underdog. So it's totally okay to say, we went through some tough times. You know what? And we dug in deep and we came through this. And here's how we did it. And this is what we built. And we would love to work with you too. You know, something just sincere and based on a real example really makes a difference. It's got to be real. And then the other thing that I was thinking about the underdog was, let's see, what the story arc? I lost my thought. I apologize. It'll come back to me in a second. But there's so many different pieces to, you know, to good story. But that was just one of the things that I feel like most people want to be the overlord or overdog or whatever it is. Just be authentic. And if you're a small company, be a small company. It's great.
So I want to touch on a little bit more the importance. We know we kind of touched on it a bit, but I want to kind of expand on the importance of the relationship building, the importance of, like you said, utilizing your story to be relatable, and actually building a bond and rapport and talking about a lot of key points that, and I guess, does this really come down to understanding who your customer avatar is in order to touch those pain points so that you can be relatable as you're telling the story?
That's so well. So thank you. That actually brought me back to that
See, we're
second point.
winning.
So
We're winning, man.
yeah, we're connected.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Absolutely. You know, when it comes down to building your own business, you've got to build something that people need, and then you got to solve their problem. You know, what's the problem you're trying to solve? If there really is no problem you're trying to solve, you're going to be way behind. If you don't know who you're talking to, their demographic, their psychographic, right? Not just age and weight and whatever, but where they live, what do they do for fun? I mean, if you don't sell something to somebody in Minnesota in the winter the same as you would Arizona in the summertime, you
Right.
know? So you really have to know those things and adjust your story accordingly, according to who they are, and definitely based on that avatar. So Facebook, you know, Mark Zuckerberg didn't start off with whatever, $60 billion or whatever he has right now,
Right.
and 1.5 billion followers. He had one college, one school, and he went after 18 to 20-year-old guys and, you know, put them on this, you know, the Facebook. Started there in a niche, and he owned that market niche. And then they expanded to another school, another school, another school. And I think that's a big lesson for people starting their product, starting their brand. Find out where the need is, solve it in a pinpoint way, and then expand out. You can't be all things to all people. And then the other side of it is, when do you need this story the most? And if you think about the customer journey, so buying cycle, there's, I don't need, you know, anywhere from awareness to capture to nurture and educate, to convert when they actually become a customer, and then expand the relationship. So people think, okay, I have one video or one story I'll use. It's not the case. It's not only different for your different avatars, your different customers out there, it's different based on where they are in the buying cycle. If they don't even know that, they don't even know you exist, then they need a 10-second or 15-second clip of, this is what we do and how we solve your problems. Oh, I'm interested. Good. Bring them over to your landing page. Tell them a little bit more with a longer story, longer video, more information. Get that Facebook like, or get the, get an email address. Then nurture and educate. You got to give a lot of information away to get them to, kind of come back. You want to be the leader and the influencer in your space. Even if it's a niche and small, it's even better. Nurture, educate, and then they'll convert and say, you know what, we've looked around. We think you're the best. We've already, we've decided and seen your materials, and you've been feeding us and educating us through this whole process, because we're getting 70,000 pieces of information every day. You've given us really good, solid information. For that, we'll buy your thing. And then it's up to you to go ahead and expand that relationship, kind of start the cycle again and say, that's wonderful. We're so happy. Give them great service. And we'd love for you to have a look at this, our book, or the other podcast, or whatever it might be, because it adds value in this way. So, kind of keep the recycle moving.
And you brought up that key word, value. And I want to make sure those of you guys who are out there listening and watching this right now understand that the key is to always add value, provide information that solves people's problems, relieves their pains. You want to give them the pill or the solution that helps them get from where they are to where they want to be. So make sure you understand the importance of adding value. So, Maury, real quick. So throughout this journey, this process, you have talked about, growing up in Pennsylvania, moving to DC, working for AT&T, being bought by Cisco, the highs and lows of that experience, going to Hollywood, and actually, being a mover and a shaker, a major player in that space right now. I want to ask you, what has been the biggest mindset shift that you've had to make, that, cognitive dissonance, whatever, to help you really say, okay, I have to make this shift in order for me to grow and move to the next level?
One of the reasons I was interested in speaking with you is because what I've had to learn the most, being a pretty independent guy, a pretty independent player, is working with other people, I've always respected other people, but really understanding that I won't get anywhere unless I'm helping other people. And that means, really personally and professionally. I think I've got a pretty, I had something happen very early, when I had like my first employee, and we went out and we filmed and did all this stuff. It was on a Friday afternoon. I thought everything was fine. He was going to start editing on, the Monday. So he called me Monday morning and he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I haven't slept all weekend. I said, well, what's wrong? I thought he was sick or something like that. And he said, I just want you to know, I went back to every location that we went to on the shoot last week. And I looked and I'm like, I don't understand. What were you looking for? Right. He said, the memory cards. I lost the memory cards. Like,
wow.
Are you saying you lost everything that we worked on? Yeah. I lost I don't know where the cards are. I even went back he went through this whole thing, and I said, we got to get together. So I, of course, was in an hour, I'm going to fire him, and that's it. Why, why not? What was the reason? I luckily talked to a friend of mine that said, look, there's a story about Lou Gerstner, supposedly one of the best CEOs of IBM. And one of his, big hires made a $400,000 mistake. It cost them $400,000 for this guy's, error. So same thing. He brought him in to the meeting and he said, what am I going to do? And the guy's like, well, I know what you're going to do. And I'm so sorry. And he said, you just got $400,000 worth of training. Are you ever going to do that again? I will never do that again. I've learned my lesson. And he, became great. So I thought, I'm an independent player. I've always been a solo operator in many ways. Let me try the opposite of what I have done in the past. So I sat down. It was literally like the same conversation. You know what I'm going to do? You're going to fire me, and I don't blame you. I just want you to know I've never done this before. Never. And I said, have you learned the lesson? I said, he's like, yes, I will always make a backup before I leave, etc. And I said, then I want you to be part of this team, and let's grow and learn together. And that kid, he was young, became like from just basically almost an intern level to one of our best producers, period. When I say producer, I mean creative, creative and organized and idea generation, helped our biggest clients. And now he's at Berkeley. Actually, a year ago said, I want to go to grad school. Would you be okay with that? And not only was I okay with that, I wrote his letter of recommendation. And, hopefully that went far. He's there now and that kind of thing. I never would have had the chance to know that about it. Would have made me feel good for 10 minutes and then I would have been stuck. And the way he fixed it, we went out and we reshot as much as we could. And we delivered all that, of course, at no cost to the customer. And it worked out just fine, luckily. So personal relationships are huge. You are not going to operate in a vacuum.
Yeah, you're spot on, brother. I'll tell you, I had the pleasure, really quick story. I had the pleasure of working as an executive assistant right before I transitioned from active duty. So this is really high level, senior leadership, colonels, generals, city officials, government agencies, and things of that nature. And I never really understood truly what leadership is until I got to that level, because of course I was a young guy, made some mistakes, but a particular leader that I had, it was always a teaching experience, a learning experience, and not a, you've made a mistake and so we're going to terminate you type of scenario. So those of you who are leaders, whether you are in that initial stage, 3 to 5 year startup phase, or even you've scaled and you're at a 10-year mature business, I want you to understand, don't be a one mistake leader. Utilize those experiences to teach your people, help them evolve, help them grow, and I promise you, they will become your best employees. That is an amazing lesson to learn. I appreciate you, Maury, for sharing that.
Welcome. Thank you for sharing as well.
All right. So you travel, you speak, you do TED Talks, you write books. Talk to us, about being an author, what that experience is about. And then, share a little bit about where people can go and get more information.
Sure. You make that sound really glamorous. I mean, my life is, it's good, but I work my butt off. I don't want, I travel, I do these talks and I write a book, so like, it sounds really cool. I must be doing it wrong because I'm working pretty hard. But I love it. I really love it. So the process of writing was actually extremely difficult. Like I said, my attention span's really short, which is why I moved in from 90 minutes, film or 2-minute films to 90 seconds. That's a good attention span for me. So putting something as daunting as a book together, it's called Rise of the Entrepreneur, and it's all about, basically two intrapreneurs, guys that really wanted to, start their own, business, but were inside a company and had to kind of bust out and go on their own, and they follow the journey. They follow the hero's journey. So they fail a lot and they come through, and there's a lot of lessons along the way. And I went with F. I went with funny. So it's actually a parody of Star Wars. So the two guys are Luke and Solo. So Luck is always lucky. Whatever he touches turns to gold. Solo, he's the solo guy. He wants to be the operator, just go on his own. So they go out, they launch a product, spend way too much money, run out of money, travel the universe trying to pitch their product, doing a really bad job of it, didn't have their intellectual property protected. Darth Vader steals it, builds the Death Star. So these two have to regroup. So it's a total parody, but there's a lot of lessons along the way there. So that's called Rise of the Entrepreneur, and it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and stuff. But how I did it is going to lead me to a quick story. I was with family this weekend, and there's a 3-year-old cousin, and he's this big, and the apple he's eating is like half his size.
Okay.
So, and I just said, how are you going to eat that whole apple? And he just holds the huge thing. He just looks at me one bite at a time.
Awesome.
I was just in shock. It was the best answer possible. And it was just, there's life right there. How are you going to do that insurmountable thing? One bite at a time, one step at a time. This 3-year-old kid loved it. And so I, to build the book, I put my basic, what I wanted to have happen in it. And I actually, got together with some writers, some friends that have written books. And, I did actually pay one of them to kind of give me some consulting, a few hours, just to get me on the right path. I felt like this is worth it. I'm going to write every single word of this, but I needed some structure. So by putting that basic structure together, the outline together, it was more, paint by numbers. Here's all the color that I want to add to these bullet points, because you put a bullet point book together, nobody's going to remember it. You put a
Right.
story together and lay in the data, then people remember it. So overall, I did it total part-time, and it probably took me, the semblance of this thing was ready for 5 years, but I really, put head down to it for probably 7 months. And so I wrote it, and it's out, and it's doing all right. I mean, it does pretty well. So that's the book. And the other things, the business is Rip Media Group, and if you asked, ripmediagroup.com, and happy to share a link with you and samples. And I'd say, if people, your listeners are interested, I'll also give you a link so that they can download one of our working guides. This is what we use for more complex projects. It's a big thing. It took me a long time to put this together too, but here's how you do it. Here's how you narrow your story down and how to get there. So I'm really proud of it, and I'd be happy to share that with your listeners and your viewers if you want. Just let me know, and I'll send it over to you. And then, I'm plugging away and working on some really cool projects right now. Working in some 3D things for some different customers, and we even have some projects with whiteboard animation, which is a real simple technique, that tells a great story. You can establish a character and walk them through a journey pretty easily, and those are pretty fun to do too. So we have a few of those happening as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you will be so kind to share that link, I'll make sure that it is in the description, whether it's SoundCloud, iTunes, and even YouTube, to make sure the viewers are able to go in and check that out. And before we get you up out of here, I have one last question that I like to ask each of my guests, just to get your view and perspective on it. And that question is, what does it mean to be extraordinary?
What does it mean to be extraordinary? What a great question. Part of my answer is the easy answer, which is, if you're 1%, better than everybody else in the room, then you're the extraordinary one. So, try to find the thing that you like, and run down that path. So to be extraordinary, really what extraordinary means, sorry, I'm kind of talking around it. If I'm around somebody that's extraordinary, that person is graceful, is giving, is charming and intelligent. They help others out, and they're more selfless than they are selfish. They're there to give and help. And I've seen people like that, and they really seem to have extraordinary lives, happy lives, lives that I think that we all want to have. So it's people that I think that give, and they, kind of the universe provides, the universe, God, other people around them, that kind of thing. But, kind of that, you got to be smart, got to be hardworking, got to be there. But if you're helping other people, that's a really beautiful thing. And that's extraordinary to me.
Absolutely. I love it, man. That answer just for me was perfect, for being perfect. I appreciate you. Maury, I am grateful for your time. I am grateful for your wisdom, your knowledge, sharing your experiences, sharing people on the importance of visual storytelling to really build their brand and things of that nature. Again, super grateful for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am also grateful for you for spending your time with us today. We truly, truly hope that this conversation added value to you to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. I'm going to leave a description for Maury's link so that you can get more in-depth information on his products, his services, the book, and things of that nature. Thank you. This has been the Transformation Hour, the show designed to help us connect so that individuals, businesses, and communities can develop, transform, and fly. I am your host, Jay Jackson, the Transformation Architect. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.